It is. You got it. You're right. It is time for hemp. So glad you could make it back today. And I hope we get through the whole show without any communications breaking down. There's supposed to be some sun flare activity today, but the ashes are not so thick in the Portland air. So perhaps we won't have any interruptions as we get together and take, you got it, time for hemp. If you're seeking healthy products for your skincare needs, you'll want to visit hempease.com. The fine folks at hempease.com blend together 9 healing herbs that have been selected specifically to help reduce swelling, rejuvenate circulation, invigorate cellular growth, and stimulate deep tissue healing. When you visit their website, you will find a wide variety of great products, from body butter to body salves to fantastic hemp root oil that is just great for all parts of your body. And there's even something there for your special four-legged friends that everyone considers part of the family. So if you're looking for something that is made of organic healing herbs specifically designed for your body's needs, you'll want to visit hempease.com. That's HEMP-EAZE.com.
Growsentia has developed Mammoth P, an organically derived soil inoculant that maximizes phosphorus and micronutrient cycling to maximize bud growth, increase yield, and enhance plant health. Mammoth P's patent-pending technology is OMRI certified. The increased levels of phosphorus and other micronutrients result in increased stem strength and a 16% increase in harvest yield. Mammoth P is effective in soil, soilless, and hydroponic systems. This biostimulant microbial product really works synergistically with any nutrient and fertilizers in your management and feeding regime. Incorporate Mammoth P into your feeding protocols as a supplement to any fertilizer program. Mammoth P is being used by growers, commercial and hobbyists throughout the U.S. Go to mammothmicrobes.com to find a store near you or to order through one of the company's online partners. That's mammothmicrobes.com, scientifically proven to grow mammoth buds.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spent. Take another look now and take some time for hemp. Don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Oh, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rest. Well, right now it's time for hemp.
Well, thank you for joining us on the big broadcast today. We have more clear skies. The sun's coming out. You can see a little bit more of me. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I'm taking time for hemp, and today we're going to be talking about medical cannabis. Medical cannabis really does exist. And I thought we might put together a couple of our brightest minds of the last 40 years, perhaps, to ever come around on the topic of medical cannabis. One is Dr. Todd Mikuriya. Those of you who might not know Dr. Todd Mikuriya, he is the grandfather, or one of the grandfathers, of the medical cannabis movement. And then the other, I would assume he's very bright and very learned about the topic of cannabis, because he is, after all, in charge of the DEA. So, you know, I'm talking about Jeff, what's his name? Sessions? Is that his name? Beauregard Sessions? I don't know. I hoped I didn't have to learn his name. I thought perhaps he'd only be in that position for a day or two, or a week or two, or a month or two, but apparently not. And it would seem that this individual doesn't really know squat about cannabis, but for some reason this individual seems to be in charge of an organization that's going to oversee cannabis, right? So let's just see how bright this guy is. What do you think? What do you say? I mean, after all, he is in charge of the DEA, right?
Am dubious about marijuana. States, can pass whatever laws they choose, but I'm not sure we're going to be a better, healthier nation than if we have marijuana being sold at every corner grocery store. I just don't think that's going to be good for us, and we'll have to work our way through that. I'd see a line in the Washington Post today that I remember from the 80s. This one was, if you smoke, marijuana is a cure for opiate abuse. Give me a break. I mean, this is the kind of argument that has been made out there, to just almost a desperate attempt to defend the harmlessness of marijuana or even its benefits. I doubt that's true. Maybe science will prove I'm wrong, but at this point in time, you and I have a responsibility to use our best judgment, that which we've learned over a period of years, and speak truth as best we can. My best view is that we don't need to be legalizing marijuana.
How do you unhear stupid? I mean, how do you take that out of your head? How did he get there? I mean, okay, look. I am not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I am not really a researcher, of any merit. It's not like I've spent my lifetime going to and from a chemistry set, looking at the variety of ways that different plants can help different parts of our body. But I can certainly tell you, I know for a fact that medical cannabis is great. We already know from way back in the day to treat glaucoma, right? So we already know that. So there's no disputing that. Okay, it helps relieve the chronic discongestion that comes from smoking too much tobacco, and which over a period of time clogs up your lungs. Smoking cannabis can help unclog your lungs, and in fact, smoking cannabis can actually save you from having to have heart attacks and stroke problems as well. It cuts back on high blood pressure diseases. So smoking cannabis actually adds time to your lifespan, usually between 7 to 12 years for people who just smoke cannabis compared to people who smoke nothing. All right, and again, I am not a doctor. I just know this from being a human being who's gotten out of bed each day and just paid attention to the world around me, all right? I also know that it helps with epileptic seizures. I've seen so many reports and so many scientific studies from around the world, and I have seen so many doctors talk about it that I have a tendency to believe them and the medical community. I also have learned that it helps cut back from people dealing with seizures, from Tourette syndrome, and that's just difficult to have to contend with, to grow through whole life. And to think that you can just smoke cannabis, and with the help of cannabis, you can get help and relief from dealing with seizures that keep you from having to, when you're having a seizure, you can't learn because you're busy having a seizure. It's difficult to drive, it's difficult to go anywhere, it's difficult to do much of anything because these seizures will oftentimes hit you unannounced. They have learned, whoever they are, the people who do the studies and the scientific research, and they've offered these reports that I have been able to read from a Google search, that there's chemicals in cannabis that stop cancer from spreading. So they know that it really helps with cancer treatments, and here they are trying to continue to perpetuate these lies by putting some clown in charge of the DEA say that kind of crap. It's been proven that people who deal with anxiety and depression, when they smoke cannabis, deal with less anxiety and deal with less depression. Just saying. And oddly enough, even though it creates short-term memory loss when you happen to enjoy a little bit of, THC slows the progression of Alzheimer's disease, which for the baby boomers, that's pretty darn important, you know? And the drug also eases the pain for people who deal with multiple sclerosis. And that's a debilitating disease that makes it difficult to sometimes even breathe and blink, let alone try to tie shoes and get through the day of just meeting people and saying hello. Multiple sclerosis is just devastating. And again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a learned researcher. I'm just someone who knows how to use a library, who knows how to do a little bit of research and can do a little bit of Google searching and learn this stuff. And I don't understand why the clown in charge of the DEA doesn't at least prepare himself with true information. People who are dealing with hepatitis C, this helps with the side effects, with the treatments that are involved with that. And that's also very important for a large number of people living in this country alone, let alone all around the world. If you have inflammatory bowel disease, or whether you be a child or an adult or a senior citizen, smoking cannabis can help you get through your day without having to deal with the crippling effects that come with dealing with that. It relieves arthritis problems when you try to move your fingers and your elbows and your knees and your arms and other joints. If you've had a couple of hits, you can also rub it onto your skin as a treatment oil. And there's a variety of ways of taking medical cannabis that are good for the body. Oddly enough, even though it gives you the munchies, on the overall, it helps you stay skinny because it keeps your metabolism up. People don't realize that. And just that alone, you think people will go, oh, how cool is that, right? How cool is that? And and again, I am not, a doctor or a researcher, but even people who deal with art, they say that it helps them create music, it helps them work with paints on canvas, it helps them come up with 3D models for different types of architectural designs, whether it be for a vehicle or a building or some type of furniture that might be good for an arthritic patient or someone who's dealing with Crohn's disease. How cool is that to be able to have your creativity stimulated, right? And speaking of Crohn's disease, people who suffer from Crohn's disease have been a guest on the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network many times, talking about how it helps them deal with Crohn's disease. And so thinking that is important, I don't know. I think it's important. And I know the people that they try to interact with, their husbands and wives, their children, their parents, they appreciate the fact that they're able to enjoy a better quality of living just because they're enjoying what? You got it. Medical cannabis. And again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a researcher. It's not like I've spent years in university studying this. This is just common knowledge for the whole body of the human existence. You just wake up one day, the sun's out, you breathe air, it makes you live. Drinking water is good for you. Smoking cannabis makes you live longer. And as you get older and start dealing with Parkinson's disease, it helps take care of some of the tremors that you're dealing with and makes it so that you can have a better quality of life as you're fighting off the symptoms of Parkinson's disease. Veterans who deal with PTSD, or anybody who deals with PTSD as a matter of fact, find that smoking cannabis helps them remain calm and stay focused and get through their days and have less anxiety and less problems to deal with the PTSD. pretty darn important if you ask me. And it helps protect the brain after someone's had a stroke. I know that doesn't sound like, because you think, well, smoking it causes short-term memory loss, maybe it affects the brain. Well, it does affect the brain in a good way. And again, you can check this stuff out on your own. Don't take my word for it. Please do your own research. And I certainly wish this clown named Jeff Sessions would do his own research. My golly, it helps me think, but not sure, protect the brain from concussions and trauma when it has a sudden hit against a wall or a ground, or maybe against a glass as you're having an accident on the highway. And it can help eliminate nightmares, people who are having problems sleeping at nights. And it gives you a nice feeling of comfort and peace, and it does help make you drowsy if you smoke the right strains. So it can help with sleeping disorders. And it also, if people are going through chemo, we also know it's like, again, common knowledge, it helps cut back on that horrible pain and nausea that comes from having to take the chemotherapy. People are able to keep food down, they're able to at least maintain weight, avoid losing it, which is so important when you're fighting off a horrible disease like cancer. And these are just some of the good things about cannabis that we know about. And it's not like, again, it's not like I am a doctor, it's not like I'm a scientist that's done research. I just do a Google search, and I listen to my guests, and I listen to the people who are learned about this when they talk about it on television and on videos on the internet. I pick up books, you know, that are available to the whole general public. And so to hear this clown by the name of Jeff Sessions say something so stupid, so silly, so inept as him saying,
as states can pass whatever laws they choose, but I'm not sure we're going to be a better, healthier nation than if we have marijuana being sold at every corner grocery store.
well, I can tell you, Jeff, we would be a stronger, healthier nation, not just physically and mentally and emotionally, but economically. We would also help alleviate a lot of the black market, which is also causing a lot of problems in our inner cities and problems for our youth. And so there's a lot of things that can be, and then we haven't even talked about the prison overpopulation and the cost of incarceration to the taxpayer, and having police officers chase criminals who are involved with a plant. And because they're so busy chasing and going after criminals with a plant, they don't have time to chase criminals who are robbing and hurting people physically. What's wrong with this picture? Well, anyway, so today we're talking about medical cannabis. Well, now, that there is one of the brightest minds in the nation, right, on the topic of cannabis. After all, he's in charge of the DEA. But when we come back, maybe you'll get a chance to learn something about one of the grandfathers of the medical cannabis movement, who sadly enough is no longer with us, but his spirit is, his fight is, and the results of his struggle have helped a generation get their medication. So with that in mind, we'll come back after this commercial break here at Time for Hemp.
At Crop King Seeds, we sell the finest marijuana seeds in the world. Grown organically with original genetics, every seed is cultivated for large yields, high THC content, and measured for both CBD and CBN levels. Did we mention we sell more than 20 of the world's best marijuana strains in feminized, auto-flowering, medical, and regular varieties, including White Widow, Blueberry, Purple Kush, Haze Extreme, and so many more. Through our website and friendly call support team, our seeds are available for direct order with speedy worldwide shipping. Crop King Seeds are also sold in over 100 locations worldwide.
Excuse me, I'm looking to buy some Crop King seeds.
Look no further, my friend.
Wow, they're here and in so many strains.
Buy your seeds now, in store or online at CropKingSeeds.com. Or call us toll free at 1-844-CROP-KING. That's 1-844-276-7546.
Hey, Bob. What's up, man?
I'm just surfing all over the web, trying to find some info on medical marijuana and the best strains of cannabis, advice for growers.
Looks like you're having a hard time, bro.
There's gotta be a million websites out there.
True, but you really only need one website to find out what you need. It'll save you a bunch of time.
Sounds great. What is it?
Check out Canafo.com. Cannafo.com.
That's right, Tommy and Bob. Canafo.com is the world's first online directory, marketplace, news portal, growing advice resource, and social media platform for all things cannabis.
Dude, where's that voice coming from?
You hear that too? Maybe we ought to cut back a little.
Canafo.com is the Google, Facebook, and Craigslist of cannabis. It even has its own social media platform. Canafo.com puts everything cannabis in one place for consumers, business, and growers. Canafo.com is a free service where you can find over 9,000 different strains of cannabis.
Whoa!
Shop cannabis classifieds and much, much more. Canafo.com. Visit today and get in the know with Canafo.
And welcome back. Well, as I said, we do want to introduce a hero, and we got a lady by the name of Becca Williams who's done a introduction to Dr. Todd Mikuriya, and I want to play some of that for you because she does a brilliant job at introducing this gentleman and his work and his past than I ever could. And I do encourage you to go to her YouTube channel and check her out. Let's see. Let's go to the full web page there so you can see what that is. And let's see. And it says, Cannabis Hero, Dr. Todd Mikuriya, Cananut with Becca Williams. And then at the end of the segment, she also makes it a point to tell you how to find her on the internet and how to find her on YouTube, etc. So please do. She's a hardworking cannabis activist, and she has a lot to offer when it comes to the information that helps make this plant so important. So anyway, and when you do, check her out. If you happen to leave a message or something, let her know that you heard about her here on the big broadcast. That would rock, okay?
You gotta love this man. If there was a Cannabis Hall of Fame, he'd be there. Dr. Todd Mikuriya was one of our contemporary pioneers in the cannabis legalization movement in this country. Dr. Mikuriya was a medical doctor, a psychiatrist. He just died in 2007. He was in his 70s. Dr. Mikuriya was of Japanese descent. When he was a kid during World War II, his family was visited by the FBI and threatened to be put in an internment camp. As a result of being singled out for being Japanese, Dr. Mikuriya said, quote, "My sister and I were shot at, beaten up, spat upon, called names. The local kids chased us like a pack of dogs." He brought that around to marijuana and said, quote, "I realized that people could be brainwashed and trained to hate. The same thing has been done with marijuana and marijuana users. I learned to fight back." And how this man was a giant in pushing the boundaries for using marijuana as medicine and an activist to get medical marijuana legalized in California, where there were emerging patchwork laws. He dug deep into forgotten medical literature that showed that cannabis was widely prescribed in the US, Britain, and France during the 1800s. But this information had been locked away in the 1930s when the United States made cannabis illegal. Dr. Mikuriya, armed with all that research, brought it to the attention of doctors and scientists in the 1960s. He did a stint with the National Institute of Mental Health, where he learned of the government's intent to suppress the benefits of the plant. He reported, quote, "The government wanted bad things found out about marijuana." And he said, "I didn't find them." With a medical practice in California, Dr. Mikuriya was skewered by the U.S. government over and over again for his activism in making sure the people who needed marijuana got it. This man never faltered in the face of what was called legal lynching. He was busted by an undercover narcotics officer, sentenced to medical malpractice probation, fined tens of thousands of dollars. At every turn, they threw up roadblocks to make him stop his activism. He wouldn't. Dr. Mikuriya opposed the idea of restricting the use of cannabis to a short list of permitted conditions. He wanted anybody who needed it to get it. He held scholarly references on all aspects of cannabis, underscoring its usefulness as a medicine and its lack of toxicity. The California Medical Board couldn't find a single person harmed in any way by Dr. Mikuriya's practice. He continued in private psychiatric practice that was limited to cannabis clinical consultation. Before he died in 2007, he's reported to have approved marijuana for medical purposes in over 9,000 patients for wide-ranging physical and emotional pain. A pioneer, a contemporary pioneer, brave and compassionate, driven by a higher service. And I mean that. Thanks for joining me. I'm Becca. If you like what we're talking about, please subscribe to MJ Straight Talk, and while you're at it, tell us your thoughts.
So there it is, Marijuana Straight Talk, MJ Straight Talk. She's a lovely lady. She's been involved in the cannabis movement for a good while, and the woman is very, very learned, and I would encourage you to also let her know that you heard about her here on the big broadcast. Well, now the individual that she was talking about is a guest on my show. I got to make friends with him back in the early 1990, late 1989, 1990. I met Dr. Todd Mikuriya, and from the moment he and I met, we maintained a friendship throughout the course of his life, and I can certainly tell you the world is a sadder place without him, but it's also a better place because of him. And I love the man. He was very gentle, very compassionate, very patient, to say the least. So, well, we're going to take a commercial break, pay our bills, and then after we do, we're going to come back and then enjoy the interview that I did with Dr. Todd Mikuriya in 1991 at the National Normal Conference. He and Dennis Perrone had just finished working on Proposition P, I think it was, and they had success with it. And it was about trying to get the medical cannabis patients their medicine without having them to be criminals, and making it possible for doctors to prescribe that medication, and making it possible for research to be done on the plant so that those who needed the medication would be able to have a better understanding of the medication and its uses. So this gentleman was truly a pioneer. Very much an honor to have known him, and when we come back, I certainly hope that you fall in love with him as much as I did here at Time for Hemp.
Indigrow is your source for affordable induction grow lighting. First discovered in 1891 by Nikola Tesla, Indigrow lights deliver 11 years of electronic sunlight to your plants. Indigrow lamps require less than half the power of traditional HID lamps. Converting to Indigrow lights means you'll cut down on your power bill with less lighting. Indigrow lamps also use 5 times less mercury than traditional fluorescent or HID lamps, making Indigrow not only energy efficient but environmentally friendly as well. No more switching out lamps between vegetative and flowering stages. As nature intended, your lights get a steady dose of UV light. That makes your plants grow healthier and stronger. Indigrow products are manufactured in San Diego, California, and come with a written 10-year warranty. What Tesla knew, then growers know now, is that Indigrow lighting is the cost-effective addition to your victory garden. To learn more or order now, go to inda-grow.com. That's INDA-GRO.com, or call 877-452-2244 to answer any of your questions. These guys really know lights. Indigrow really is your sunlight in a box.
You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. broadcasting network dedicated to ending the global war on drugs on iHeartRadio. Please share us with your friends.
Thank you for joining us today. On our program, we are blessed to have the distinguished individual, Dr. Todd Mikuriya, come onto our show and share some interesting viewpoints and some successes that they've had in the Bay Area and California. For those of you who are not acquainted with this gentleman, he has a very impressive background. He is a psychiatrist in private practice in Oakland and Berkeley. He is a gentleman who introduced the first methadone maintenance program in Alameda County.
That's right.
And he's also a member of the California Medical Association. He's certified by the American Society of Addiction Medicine, and the California Society of Addiction Medicine is a qualified medical review officer, right?
That's right.
Kind of blew that. He's also the co-author of a very impressive landmark bill that has happened in San Francisco called Proposition P. This man's background goes beyond that, but for now, that basically covers the things that we're going to be approaching. Now, Proposition P, a lot of people have become aware of that through the press and through media coverage, and I know people becoming aware of your background recognizes that you have a lot going for you intellectually, and so that when you make a comment that we should pay attention to hemp as a medical resource for the curing of pain and relieving of pain and other diseases, it comes with a lot of impact.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. One of the problems that we had, well, we've been having problems for many years of getting access to medicinal cannabis. And once upon a time, I was in charge of marijuana research for the National Institute of Mental Health in Chevy Chase. This is back in 1967, but since that time, there's been a minimal amount of progress in getting cannabis available for medicinal use. Only recently has there been some compassionate access, and only recently have there been some grudging admissions by the scientific and medical establishment that cannabis, in fact, had therapeutic efficacy.
Okay.
And I feel very bitter about this because I know it to be a cover-up, since before marijuana was taken away from availability by the 1937 Tax Act, medicinal cannabis also became unavailable, deleted from the 1941 formulary and pharmacopoeia.
Now, why did that go hand in hand like that?
Because it was part of this so-called send them a signal school of propaganda and disinformation that the police had to maintain in order to continue the fictionalized killer weed, or part of reefer madness. And so saying that cannabis had medical or medicinal utility would have run contrary to their fiction that they needed to maintain in order to continue credibility and not having people question why marijuana was in fact prohibited.
Now, that's the only plant substance drug, which is not really a drug, it's an herb, that's been treated like that. I mean, we have opium that's still available, et cetera, for medicinal purposes, et cetera, don't we, and other forms of...
That's right, even cocaine. But because of the several factors, the growing popularity and the promotion of synthetic drugs by the pharmaceutical manufacturers that started in the 1890s and went on through the 1900s and has escalated ever since with new and better, allegedly, synthetic substances. No money could be made from any patents, and they weren't interested in promoting the use of cannabis. Although Eli Lilly and Park Davis maintained a farm for developing pharmaceutical strains and pharmaceutical strength plants up until 1937.
and then they're just now disregarding all of that past evidence until now you're bringing it to light?
Well, yes, and that's, well, it's very much like living, at least in the medical world, with the depiction of the Planet of the Apes and what happened to medicine after they wanted to get rid of all these human kinds of advances in technology, and they reverted to some form of medicine that resembled something that happened in the Middle Ages or worse.
Okay, well now, see, people are able to recognize that hemp can be made into paper, fiber, and fuel, but when it comes to the idea of it being medicine, outside of smoking it, as far as relaxing, taking care of stress, etc., it's hard for them to imagine in what areas hemp can actually be utilized for. Now, you say that it helps in AIDS, as an example?
Well, okay, back to this issue of censorship, and it's being swept under the rug.
Okay.
And the importance of bringing this back to consciousness and bringing it back to the awareness of the medical community as far as a therapeutic agent. And that's why the text of the initiative or the proposition in San Francisco that I co-authored contained the term restore.
Could you take a moment and read it to our audience?
Yes.
I'd appreciate that.
Recommendation to amend the Health and Safety Code of California. 1. The people of the City and County of San Francisco recommend that the State of California and the California Medical Association restore hemp medical preparations to the list of available medicines in California. Licensed physicians shall not be penalized for or restricted from prescribing hemp preparations for medical purposes to any patient. Definition. The term hemp medical preparations means all products made from hemp, cannabis, or marijuana in all forms that are designed, intended, or used for human consumption for the treatment of any disease, the relief of pain, or for any healing purpose, including the relief of asthma, glaucoma, arthritis, anorexia, migraine, multiple sclerosis, epilepsy, nausea, stress, for use as an antibiotic and antiemetic, or as any healing agent, or as an adjunct to any medical procedure for the treatment of cancer, HIV infection, or any other medical procedure or herbal treatment. Now that is a very broad definition of medicine or medical or medicinal applications.
Yes, it is.
But the definition of hemp medical preparations is well documented in previous things like the U.S. Pharmacopoeia, and that, in fact, all the definitions are in place ready to go for medicinal use of crude cannabis products to be restored.
Excellent.
To the formulary.
Excellent.
And so we're in this wonderful post-passage euphoria. Dennis Perrone, the spark plug behind this, has appointed me the medical coordinator for the Committee for Compassionate Use, his organization, to get this on the ballot, and then now we're trying to figure out what do we do now. All of a sudden we've become successes after all these many years having been failures and looked upon as outcasts, deviants, nuts, irresponsible, dope-smoking hippies, and other kinds of negative stereotypes that we've been stuck with, which is all part of the suppression campaign to keep cannabis, marijuana, or hemp illegal.
And see, a lot of that has to do with people of your stature being willing to come forth into the public light and make these statements, because, you know, you leave yourself wide open. I'm certain you realize that, for a variety of attacks, whether it be from government agencies or private industry.
Yes, because it's really part of a campaign to maintain these collective fictions in order to prop up these flawed policies, that they need to attempt to discredit or tarnish or kill the messenger somehow, so as to not be made to confront the actual facts and deal on a level playing field with what is in fact happening.
When we come back, I'd like to be able to go a little bit farther as to how the next step Proposition P.
Preparation P.
Preparation P helps take care of a pain. Yes, it does. It's going to be implemented in the direction that it's going to have to go before it becomes completely successful. We'll be right back after this. We're talking today with Dr. Todd Mikuriya, and we are learning some of the benefits, of course, for the medical uses of the hemp plant, but now we also have some challenges against us still that we've got to overcome. You have encumbered the first leg of the journey. You've just the first battle, basically. You've got it legal in a city, but now I understand from talking to Dennis Perone and others, you still have to encumber the state laws and the federal laws. Now, how do you plan on getting this into the next phase?
I've already worked on attempting to surf on this event wave, and have taken a running start by contacting the California Medical Association with regard to the possible passage of this before it actually passed. Okay. And so I'm asking them to become involved with helping to implement the intent of the proposition, which specifies that the people of the city and county of San Francisco recommend that the state of California and the California Medical Association restore hemp preparations, etc.
How do you think that will be met?
With trepidation by the California Medical Association, but it's been put on a fast track to be reviewed by their scientific council. And I spoke with the president of the CMA, Dr. Howard Lang, who impresses me as a forthright, courageous person. But I don't know how he feels on the issue. He was vaguely aware of having seen it across his desk, but then passed it on to the appropriate staffers down at their headquarters office in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And they were aware that it had passed, but were not aware of how the California Medical Association was obliged to be involved. Okay. There isn't any kind of way we can force the CMA to be involved in taking a stand, yay or nay. But if they do support this, their options of activity are to publicize it amongst their physicians, and also start working in Sacramento for legislation to make this possible, and of course statewide.
Okay, now, is there a chance that a federal agent or a state agent would still take action in the city of San Francisco and begin arresting people when they are growing marijuana, hemp?
Well, this is always possible, but we have this unique situation in San Francisco where the district attorney has assured us that he will not prosecute any cases for 6 plants or less that are growing for medicinal purposes if the person demonstrates that they have medicinal intent or documentation.
Gatewood Galbraith once made the comment on a show of ours that if he were able to re-legalize hemp in Kentucky, all the tourists would come in, he'd fill up all the hotels. When I spoke with Dennis Perone, he made comment that now that this has happened in the medical field, a variety of organizations from muscular sclerosis, etc., are wanting to open up foundations and offices, etc., in the San Francisco, i.e. Bay Area. Do you foresee that happening? And if so, is that going to make the movement stronger? Or?
I hadn't thought of that eventuality necessarily, but I would welcome that, because it would, with what we have in mind, help everybody, including the sufferers that were in need. Because now that we have the de facto decriminalization, even though the state attorney general is a right-wing individual that will probably oppose this, and ironically, he was the opponent to the DA who lost the race for the state attorney general to him, so there won't be any love lost between them. Theoretically, the state attorney general could send state police and state narcotics agents to go and do this kind of enforcement, but it would be difficult and outside of his area of usual responsibilities.
So you don't see an attack like they had in Humboldt County?
Well, I think that in San Francisco, where you have an uncooperative local DA with the state laws, you have the mayor and the public health establishment on your side. And as soon as we get back to San Francisco, Dennis and I have a meeting with the head of the San Francisco Health Department that we will start moving forward and making something happen de facto that would be politically suicidal to be punitive and to attempt to stop by either federal or state intervention. That theoretically they could, but to target people who are compassionately using cannabis, this especially in an election year would not look too good with regard to Washington, the state of unreality inside the Beltway that doesn't really have any substantive health policy. And to do something negative like this would be, I would say, not good politics. But back to trying to implement the intent of this. We are going to be presenting to the state or the county health person a draft of a questionnaire and a form that we will have distributed by the health department and publicized by them to the physicians in San Francisco, that we are starting a research project to determine the impact of this in terms of the first way of accurately assessing actual hazards and benefits of cannabis products. That will involve visits by the users to their family physician, or if they don't have one, find one, because to get a prescription for using cannabis, they'd have to have the signature of a prescribing physician, because it mandates that we're not going to be punished for prescribing. And then, should the police come and investigate a growing situation in a window box or something of that nature, patio, that the person would furnish proof that this was for medicinal purposes, and they would be functionally sheltered and decriminalized for their compassionate access to cannabis. Now, as a quid pro quo, we ask that they give us certain facts with regard to their the use for what ailment, and we have all these conditions listed here, and this will be part of the form that we'll ask the patient to complete, and the physician also.
Now, I know one thing that the taxpayers from the Bay Area would be concerned about is when the Berlin Wall came down, all the people came rushing out, and there was an overflow into a new city and not enough to take care of. When this wall comes bursting down in San Francisco, you're going to have people from Miami, New York, everywhere coming into San Francisco and needing this medicine to relieve themselves from AIDS, glaucoma, etc., etc. And there's going to be an enormous amount, it appears, people seeking your help. How are you going to prepare to take care of that?
I think the San Francisco physicians can respond to that challenge, and that they can provide them with good medicine, and also with frankness with regard to their substance use patterns, and not have to be hypocritical or fearful that anything will be happening to them, so that they're not going to turn down the business. And we're talking about people publicizing to the medical community that this is what happened, and this is what the public health department is doing to try to help implement it. One of the things we're going to ask for is some office space in the public health department, but we'll pay for it. And we're then going to start soliciting contributions or money to implement this research project. Another thing that we're going to ask the public health department to do is to monitor the purity, quality, and strength, and do chemical analyses on hemp specimens that will be submitted by users, because they would like to know about different issues of purity. For example, fungi and molds. This is really a critical issue for the AIDS patients, because those that have compromised immunologic systems and problems with recurrent pneumonia, to have sources of mold or fungi come in courtesy of the leaf would be not good for their health, probably. And so we have to study the level of occurrences of these kinds of contaminants, molds, fungi. Possibly somebody might have something in their soil they didn't know about that would get into there like a heavy metal, and that the essentially the health department's laboratory would be protecting the health of the citizens of San Francisco for drug purity with regard to cannabis, plus providing us a source of information for other phases of research, which will be structure-activity relationships and variety, strain, other kinds of botanical or species, kinds of differences or growth techniques will also start coming online with regard to issues of what are good medicines, what are undesirable effects.
And we'll
also
start generating new research
Right.
and new approaches to problems.
That's right, and a population which will give us this information in exchange for being protected.
Sounds excellent.
And this is the kind of thing that I'm quite excited about. I think that we are sending the right signal to the Beltway back here.
And we need to do so still.
And I think that this kind of initiative will help demystify, because it will involve the medical community in learning what is real and what is hysteria, so that more legitimate information will come from this. And I'm asking to be appointed principal investigator for this research effort.
I'm sure we'd
so
love
as to
do
coordinate
that.
it.
And we've also enjoyed having you on our show. We really have to go at this point, but we'd like to have you come back soon. Next time you get a chance to be on the show, would you please?
Certainly will.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for tuning in to our program. We're doing what we can to bring in the information to you as quickly as we come across it. Until we're in touch again, keep happy, keep strong, keep wise.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spend. Take another look and spend some time for him. Don't cut trees for paper, 'cause it hurts the environment.